The narrator of this story watched everything from a distance, like someone looking at a large map. On one side of the map was the United Kingdom, with its old castles, quiet villages, and long history of kings and queens. On the other side was the United States, full of tall buildings, bright lights, and people who believed anything was possible if they tried hard enough. But this story did not belong to a king or a queen, nor to a famous general or a rich businessman. It began with a girl, an ordinary girl who lived a simple life and never expected to change the world. Yet she was the one who would one day stand in front of an emperor and challenge him. Her name was Lena Hartley, a 14-year-old girl from a small town in northern England. She lived with her mother in a small brick house near a wide field. The field looked normal to everyone in the village, but Lena believed it was magical. She often sat there in the grass, looking at the clouds floating above her, imagining shapes and stories. Sometimes the clouds looked like dragons, sometimes like ships, sometimes like mountains from faraway lands. Her mother always said she had too much imagination, but the narrator knew that imagination was the key that would open Lena's future. Lena's father had died when she was young, and all she had left of him was a wooden box filled with strange coins from different countries. One coin was different from the others. It was heavier, darker, and had a strange symbol carved on it, a crown with 7 spikes, sharper and longer than any normal crown. Lena once asked her mother about it, but her mother only shook her head and said the coin had arrived in the box mysteriously. They did not know who had sent it. They did not know where it was from. But the narrator knew, and one day, Lena would know too. Across the ocean, in the United States, a different world moved, with loud sounds and fast footsteps. In New York City lived a boy named Caleb Rivers, 15 years old, tall, quiet, and always curious. He lived in a busy neighborhood where cars honked all day, and people rushed past one another with coffee cups in their hands. Caleb often felt lost in the noise, like a small fish swimming in a crowded river. But he had something special, a mind that noticed things other people ignored. While other boys played games or watched sports, Caleb liked to read old books from the library. One day, in the back corner of the library, he found a dusty book with a torn cover. It had no title on the front. When he opened it, he found a drawing of the same 7-spiked crown that Lena had on her coin. Caleb did not know it yet, but this small discovery would pull him into a story he never expected. The narrator watched Lena in England and Caleb in America, like two small lights growing brighter on the map. They did not know each other. They did not know their lives were connected by something ancient and powerful, something that began long before they were born. In Lena's village, people often talked about a legend, an old story of a hidden empire that existed outside normal maps, ruled by a cruel emperor who feared only one thing: a girl born under a rare star, a girl who would challenge his power. Most people treated it as a bedtime story, something grandparents told children to make them sleep. But legends, the narrator knew, often held pieces of truth. One cold evening, as Lena walked through the field, she felt something strange beneath her feet. The ground trembled softly, almost like a heartbeat. The wind changed direction suddenly, blowing her hair back from her face. And then she heard it, a deep, distant sound, like a horn calling across the sky. She froze. The sound lasted only a moment, but she felt its weight inside her chest. She did not know it, but she had just been found. Far away, thousands of miles across the ocean, Caleb heard the same horn while standing on the rooftop of his apartment building. The sky above New York was clear, but the sound did not belong to the city. He looked around, confused. No one else reacted. The sound was calling him too. On the same night, in a hidden land not shown on any map, the emperor of the 7-spiked crown stood in his black tower. His cloak was made of shadows, and his eyes glowed with cold fire. He was old, very old, but his power kept him strong. When the horn echoed through his kingdom, he clenched his hands in anger. "So," the emperor whispered, "the prophecy has awakened." One of his servants, a tall figure with silver armor, stepped forward. "My lord," he said, "does this mean the girl has been found?" The emperor nodded slowly. "Yes, the girl who will challenge me. The girl who should never have been born." "And the boy?" the servant asked. "He is nothing," the emperor said. "A mistake of fate, but sometimes mistakes grow into threats. Both must be watched." The narrator, who had seen many stories, knew something the emperor did not. He feared the girl not because she was powerful, but because she was ordinary. Ordinary people, when pushed by destiny, could do extraordinary things. The next morning, Lena felt strange. She kept touching the mysterious coin in her pocket, feeling its cold metal against her fingers. She felt as if someone was watching her from far away. Caleb woke with the same feeling, the book with the 7-spiked crown still open on his desk. While they lived in different countries, while oceans and cultures separated them, their stories had just begun to move toward each other. The narrator understood that destiny was no longer sleeping. The emperor had awakened, and so had the children who would one day stand against him. This was the beginning of a quiet storm, one that would grow louder with every step Lena and Caleb took. For several days after hearing the strange horn, Lena felt as if the world around her had changed in a way she could not explain. The sky looked the same, the fields looked the same, and the people in her village behaved exactly as always. But something inside her felt different, like a door had opened, and she could not close it again. She carried the dark coin everywhere, not because she wanted to, but because she felt she had to. It was as if the coin itself whispered to her, calling her toward something unknown. The narrator watched her closely. Whenever she touched the coin, she felt a soft pulse, almost like a heartbeat. She wondered whether she was imagining it, but the feeling was too real. She tried telling her mother once, but her mother only smiled gently and said, "You read too many stories, Lena." Lena wished it were only imagination. Life would be easier that way. Across the ocean, Caleb sat at his desk, staring at the strange book he had found in the library. The pages were old and yellow, and the drawings inside looked hand-drawn. The seven-spiked crown appeared again and again on different pages. He traced the shape with his finger, feeling uneasy. Something about it felt alive. When he turned the page, he found a sentence written in dark ink. "Two lights will rise, one from the old world, one from the new. When the horn calls, the emperor will tremble." Caleb read the line again and again. He did not understand it, but he knew one thing. The horn he heard that night was not a dream. He had not imagined it. Something was happening, and he felt he was part of it. Even if he did not know how or why, the narrator knew that destiny had begun moving both children toward the hidden empire, the place the emperor ruled with fear and fire. But destiny rarely moves in straight lines. It starts with confusion, questions, and small events that seem unimportant. Lena and Caleb were experiencing exactly that. That one cold afternoon, Lena went to the field behind her house, the place she loved most. She held the coin in her hand and looked at the cloudy sky. Her breath turned to mist in the air. Everything was quiet, too quiet. Suddenly, the wind stopped completely. The clouds froze in the sky, unmoving. Even the sound of birds disappeared. Lena's heart raced. She felt the ground shift under her feet. Then a circle of light formed on the grass. In the center of the light, she saw a shape appear, a tall figure wrapped in gray cloth, with no face, no eyes, only a smooth surface like metal dot. The narrator knew this figure well. A watcher, one of the emperor's silent messengers. Lena stepped back in fear, but her legs shook so much she could not run. The watcher raised a thin, silver hand and pointed at her. "You have been found," it said, though its mouth did not move. The voice echoed inside Lena's mind rather than through the air. "I don't understand," she whispered. "The emperor searches for you," the watcher continued. "He has waited many years. You must come with me." Lena shook her head. "No, I don't even know who he is." The watcher stepped forward, and the ground darkened beneath its feet. Lena felt the coin grow hot in her pocket, so hot she cried out and pulled it out with shaking fingers. The moment the coin touched the open air, it exploded with bright white light. The watcher hissed and stepped back, shielding itself. The light grew stronger, surrounding Lena like a shield. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the watcher vanished, swallowed by the light. The wind returned. The clouds began to move again. The world unfroze. Lena dropped to her knees, trembling. The coin lay in her palm, cold once more. She did not know what had just happened, but she knew something important now. Someone wanted her, someone dangerous. Meanwhile, in New York City, Caleb was walking home when he felt a strange pressure in the air around him. People continued walking normally, but he felt something pushing at his thoughts, like a cold hand touching his mind. He turned quickly and saw a shape standing near the building wall. A tall figure wrapped in gray cloth. No face, no eyes. A watcher. Caleb froze. The watcher raised its hand, but before it could speak, something unusual happened. A page from the old book in Caleb's backpack began to glow. The glow spread through the bag, then through Caleb's body. A warm, golden light surrounded him. The watcher stopped moving. It tilted its head, confused. Caleb did not understand what was happening, but he felt safer inside the light. The watcher slowly stepped back. Then it whispered something Caleb barely heard. "You are not ready. Not yet." And just like that, the watcher disappeared into thin air. Caleb stood still for several minutes, breathing hard, trying to make sense of what had happened. Nothing in his life had prepared him for this. Not school, not books, not anything. He had seen something impossible, and something impossible had protected him. The narrator understood that both Lena and Caleb now stood on the edge of destiny. They were no longer ordinary children with small dreams. They were chosen, each for a reason they did not yet know. That night, the emperor stood in his high tower, furious. His watchers had failed to capture the children. He slammed his hand against his throne, causing sparks of dark fire to rise around him. "They resist me," he growled, "even before they know who they are." He turned to his generals, tall figures in black armor. "Prepare the shadows. If the watchers cannot bring them, the shadows will." The generals bowed and left silently. The emperor walked to the window of his tower and looked at the storm, clouds swirling over his empire. "They will come to me," he whispered, "because destiny will push them here." The narrator, who had seen many kings and emperors fall, knew something the emperor did not. Destiny did not obey him. Destiny obeyed the children. The narrator watched the days that followed, noticing how destiny began pulling Lena and Caleb closer to one another, even though an entire ocean still separated them. Something had shifted in the air around both children. They no longer belonged to the simple world they had known. The Emperor's watchers had found them, and now the shadows the Emperor's darker, stronger servants would soon begin their hunt. But destiny always moves with balance. As danger grew, guidance began to appear. Lena woke the next morning feeling weak and tired, as if she had run a long distance in her sleep. She looked at the coin on her bedside table. The symbol of the 7-spiked crown looked sharper than before, almost glowing faintly under the morning light. She touched it carefully. It was warm again, not burning like yesterday, but alive, like it had a heartbeat. She sat up and whispered, "What do you want from me?" The coin did not answer, but she felt a strange comfort holding it. For the first time since the Watcher appeared, she felt less alone. Meanwhile, in New York, Caleb opened the mysterious book again. During the night, he had heard a soft sound like the turning of a page even, though he was sure he had closed the book. When he checked it in the morning, one of the pages he had never seen before lay open. It contained a drawing of two figures, a girl holding a glowing coin, and a boy holding an open book. Beneath the drawing was a sentence in thin, sharp handwriting. "When the old light meets the new, the path begins." Caleb stared at the sentence for a long time. He had never met the girl in the drawing, but he felt as if she existed somewhere in the world, someone who was experiencing the same strange things he was. The narrator understood this feeling well. Destiny connects people long before they ever meet. That afternoon, Lena walked to the village library. She felt she needed answers even if she didn't know where to find them. The librarian, Mrs. Dawson, was an old woman with soft gray hair and warm eyes. She had known Lena since she was a little girl. "You look troubled, dear," Mrs. Dawson said gently as Lena entered. Lena hesitated. She couldn't exactly say. A faceless creature appeared in a field and tried to take me. So she simply asked, "Do you have any books about old legends, lost empires?" Mrs. Dawson raised an eyebrow. "That's a very specific question." "Just curious," Lena said quietly. The librarian studied her for a moment, then nodded and walked to a back shelf. She returned holding an ancient-looking book with a cracked leather cover. There were no words on the front. "This is the oldest book we have," Mrs. Dawson said. "It was donated long before I was born. People rarely touch it." Lena thanked her and sat at a wooden table. When she opened the book, dust rose into the air. Inside, she found drawings similar to the ones in Caleb's book, maps of strange lands, symbols of crowns, and shadowy figures that reminded her too much of the Watcher. She turned another page and froze. A picture of the 7-spiked crown, exactly like the symbol on her coin. Below it, a sentence written in faded ink, "The Emperor fears the one who carries the ancient coin." Lena's heart pounded. She stared at the line until the letters began to blur. Fears? Why would an emperor fear her? She was just a girl who worked hard in school and read too many stories. A soft gust of cold air blew through the library. Even though the windows were closed, Lena felt something standing behind her. When she turned, nothing was there, but she sensed a presence. "Lena," a voice whispered inside her head. She jumped up, dropping the book. The coin in her pocket grew cold. The voice continued, "Do not be afraid. I am not your enemy." "Who are you?" she whispered aloud. "A guardian," the voice answered. "I have watched your family for generations. The Emperor has awakened. You must be ready." "What does he want?" Lena whispered, trembling. "You," the voice said. "But you also have something he can never command: courage." Before Lena could ask anything else, the cold air vanished and the library grew silent again. The narrator knew the voice belonged to an ancient guardian who once served the Empire before it fell into darkness. The guardian could not appear in physical form, but it could guide. Lena picked up the book and hurried out of the library, her mind spinning with fear and confusion. Across the ocean, Caleb was also receiving guidance, but in a different way. That evening, he walked into the library again to study the mysterious book. When he reached the corner where he had found it the first time, he noticed an old man sitting at the table. The man had white hair, sharp blue eyes, and a long coat that looked older than the library itself. "You found the book," the man said without looking up. Caleb blinked. "Do you know about it?" "I know more than you can imagine," the man replied. "That book is not meant for ordinary hands." Caleb felt a shiver. "I didn't choose it, it just called to me." The old man finally looked at him. "That is because you are connected to the girl." Caleb stared. "What girl?" "You will meet her soon," the man said. "Your paths are already linked. When the Emperor rises, two must rise against him." Caleb took a step back. "Who are you?" The old man stood slowly. His eyes glowed faintly, like stars reflected in water. "I am a keeper," he said, "one who protects the knowledge of the worlds, and I have a message for you." Caleb swallowed hard. "What message?" "The Emperor has sent his shadows," the keeper said. "They will come for you. And when they do, you must not run alone." "Then what should I do?" Caleb whispered. "Find the girl," the keeper said. "Find her before the shadows find you both." In the next moment, the old man vanished, disappearing into thin air as if he had never been there. Caleb stood frozen, breathing fast. He didn't know her name. He didn't know where she lived. But he now knew one truth. He had to find her. And the narrator knew something else. Lena and Caleb had already begun moving toward the same destiny. Their fear was rising, but so was their courage. The Emperor felt this from his distant tower. He could sense their growing strength. His anger shook the walls of his throne room. They are coming together, he growled. Find them. Stop them. Break them before they understand who they truly are. But destiny, once awakened, does not obey fear. It follows the brave. The narrator could feel the world shifting, as if two invisible threads were pulling tighter and tighter. Lena in England and Caleb in America were no longer just two ordinary children living quiet lives. Their choices, their fears, and their courage were slowly weaving together into one path. And soon, that path would lead them far from their homes, farther than either of them ever imagined. Lena hardly slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the Watcher's faceless form, the shadows shifting, and the message in the old book, "The Emperor fears the one who carries the ancient coin." She tried to make sense of it, but nothing seemed logical. She was just a girl from a small village. Why would an emperor in a hidden world care about her? By early morning, she made a decision. She could no longer pretend everything was normal. She needed answers. Real answers. She packed the coin, her notebook, and some clothes into a small bag. Before she left the house, she paused and looked at her mother sleeping on the couch. A soft blanket rested over her shoulders. Tears gathered in Lena's eyes. She wanted to stay. She wanted to feel safe. But she knew she couldn't. Something bigger than her village, bigger than England itself, was calling her. "I'll come back," she whispered. "I promise." She stepped outside, and cold morning air brushed against her cheeks. The fields were silent, as if holding their breath. Lena walked toward the train station. She didn't know exactly where she was going, London perhaps, or maybe somewhere even farther, but she felt one truth inside her heart. Staying would put her family in danger. Meanwhile, miles across the ocean, Caleb was experiencing the same urgency. After meeting the mysterious keeper, he couldn't stay still. His hands shook each time he touched the book. The drawing of the girl, the glowing coin, the sentence about two lights rising it, all felt connected. He stuffed the book into his backpack, grabbed his jacket, and quietly left his apartment. His mother was in the kitchen making breakfast, and he paused for a moment. He felt guilty leaving without explaining anything, but how could he tell her the truth? "Mom, I'm being hunted by shadows from another world." She would never believe him. "I'll come back," he whispered. Echoing the same words Lena had spoken across the ocean, he walked onto the busy New York street, blending with the crowd, though inside he felt like he didn't belong here anymore. The keeper had given him one important message: find the girl. But the world was huge. Where would he even start? Caleb made his way to the library, hoping to find clues in the book. But as he reached the entrance, a heavy shadow moved across the ground. The air grew colder, the sky darkened, even though the sun was shining bright. A whisper filled his ears. "They found me," Caleb breathed. A figure stepped from the alley beside the library, taller than a human, body wrapped in swirling black smoke, eyes glowing red like burning coal. This was not a watcher. This was a shadow, one of the Emperor's strongest hunters. Caleb ran. The shadow followed silently, its form gliding above the ground. People around Caleb didn't scream, they didn't even react. Shadows could not be seen by ordinary eyes. Only the chosen could see them. Caleb sprinted through the streets, heart pounding, backpack jumping on his shoulders. The shadow glided faster. It was getting closer. When Caleb turned the corner, he collided with someone, an old woman carrying fruit. Apples rolled across the pavement. Caleb tried to help her, but the shadow grew closer, its claws extending. "I'm sorry," he cried, running again. The shadow's voice scratched inside his mind. "You cannot run forever." The narrator knew the shadow was right. Caleb's strength was not enough. He needed the girl. He needed Lena, and she needed him. On the other side of the ocean, Lena boarded a train heading south. She sat by the window, her fingers wrapped tightly around the coin. The closer she held it, the safer she felt. But she also felt watched. The train's lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized. Lena scanned the faces around her. Everyone looked ordinary. No shadows, no watchers. "Maybe I am safe for now," she thought. But just as she relaxed, the coin pulsed in her hand. The window beside her reflected a shape not inside the train, but outside. Something moved on the rails, keeping pace with the train even as it sped forward. A dark figure, a shadow. Lena's breath caught in her throat. She ducked her head, clutching the coin. The shadow's shape pressed against the window, its featureless face looking directly at her. "You cannot hide," it whispered through the glass. Lena squeezed the coin tightly and it exploded with light again. The shadow recoiled, hissing. Passengers looked around, confused by the sudden flash, but they didn't see the creature. Shadows were invisible to normal eyes here too. The light faded, and Lena knew she had only minutes before the shadow returned, stronger than before. She stood, hurried down the aisle, and moved to another car. She needed help. She needed someone who understood what was happening, but she didn't know anyone. Across the ocean, Caleb was being cornered. He reached a dead-end alley. The shadow blocked the exit. Its long arms reached toward him. "You belong to the Emperor," it hissed. "No," Caleb shouted, holding up the book as if it were a shield. The pages flipped open on their own. A gust of golden light burst from the book, pushing the shadow backward. Caleb stared wide. He didn't know the book could do that. The shadow steadied itself. "The book protects you for now, but it cannot protect you forever." Then, like smoke sucked into a vacuum, the shadow vanished. Caleb fell to his knees, breathing hard. His hands shook violently, but he noticed something on the open page of the book. A new map had appeared. A map of Europe. A small circle glowed over the United Kingdom. A word faded into view. Go. The narrator knew exactly what this meant. Caleb had received his first direction. Destiny was guiding him straight toward Lena. At the same time, the train carrying Lena slowed as it entered London. The city stretched around her with its tall buildings, busy streets, and old bridges. She stepped off the train, her heart pounding with fear and determination. She didn't know why she was here, but she felt she had to keep moving. Someone was coming. She looked at the coin. Caleb looked at the book, and in the Emperor's dark tower, shadows swirled as he rose from his throne. They move, the Emperor growled. Then the real hunt begins. The narrator watched as two paths, one from the United States and one from the United Kingdom, finally moved toward the same point. Destiny had been pulling Lena and Caleb together from the moment the horn sounded across the sky. Now, the moment of meeting would reveal the truth hidden behind the coin, the book, and the Emperor's fear. Caleb stepped off the plane at Heathrow Airport in London, with shaking hands and tired eyes. He had never traveled outside the United States before. Everything felt strange. The accents, the signs, even the cold air. But the book in his backpack glowed softly, guiding him like a compass. Each time he turned the wrong way, the pages fluttered on their own. He followed the strange pull through crowded streets, across bridges, and into the heart of the city. He walked for nearly an hour until the book grew warm. When he looked up, he found himself standing in front of a large stone fountain in a quiet square. Then the book opened by itself. On one page, a single sentence appeared. She is near. Caleb turned slowly down at the same time. Lena walked into the same square, clutching the coin tightly in her palm. The shadow from the train had followed her all the way to the city, but the light of the coin had kept it at a distance. Still, she knew she couldn't keep running forever. She needed answers. She needed someone who understood what was happening. That was when she saw him, a boy standing near the fountain, holding an old book that glowed faintly. Their eyes met. The narrator felt the world pause. Caleb took a step forward. You're the girl from the drawing? Lena blinked in shock. And you're the boy in the book? For a moment, neither of them spoke. They simply stared at each other, realizing destiny had finally connected them. Lena held up the coin. Do you know what this is? Caleb lifted the book. I think this explains it. But before they could speak again, the ground beneath them trembled. A dark cloud formed above the square. People around them panicked and ran, though most could not see the true danger. The cloud twisted into a tall shape, bigger than any watcher, darker than any shadow. A deep voice echoed across the stones. Enough running. Caleb grabbed Lena's arm. It's a Shadow King. The narrator knew this creature well. It was one of the Emperor's highest agents, sent only when the Emperor was desperate or afraid. The Shadow King raised a clawed hand. The Emperor commands your capture. The prophecy ends tonight. Lena stepped back. Fear surged inside her, but at the same time, something stronger was rising too. She held the coin tightly, and for the first time, she felt power flowing into her fingers, not just light, but strength. Caleb's book glowed brighter as well, golden light filling its pages. The Shadow King roared and rushed toward them. Caleb pulled Lena behind him and lifted the book. A blast of golden light shot forward, pushing the Shadow King back, but not far enough. He's too strong. Caleb shouted. Lena stepped beside him, her heart pounding. Then we do it together. She lifted the coin. It burst with white light stronger than any light she had ever created before. The Shadow King screamed, covering its face, but then something strange happened. The coin and the book began to glow at the same time, one white, one gold. The lights merged into a single, powerful beam. The narrator felt the air shake as a portal opened behind the Shadow King. Through the portal, Lena and Caleb saw a dark throne room, tall stone pillars, and a figure rising from a black throne. The Emperor? His eyes glowed like burning ice. So, he said softly, voice echoing through the portal, you stand together at last. Lena stared at him. Why do you want us? Because you carry what I lost, the Emperor replied. Power from the time before my rule. The coin and the book were created to destroy me. I will not let children end my reign. Caleb shouted, your reign ends because you fear the wrong people. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Children are nothing. The narrator smiled silently. He still does not understand. Lena stepped forward, gripping the coin. The prophecy says the Emperor fears the one who carries the ancient coin. That's me, and you should fear me. The Emperor laughed, but there was fear hidden under his voice. A girl dares challenge me. Yes, Lena said. I challenge you. The light from the coin and the book burst again, stronger, brighter, unstoppable. The Shadow King fell to the ground, dissolving into smoke. The Emperor tried to close the portal, but the combined light held it open. No, the Emperor shouted, fighting the force. The light grew brighter. The narrator watched as the energy from the coin and the book wrapped around the Emperor's throne, breaking the chains of his power. The Empire's dark sky cracked with light. The Emperor screamed, as his shadow throne shattered, and then silence. The portal collapsed. The light faded. The Shadow King was gone, Lena and Caleb stood alone, in the quiet square, breathing hard. The book closed in Caleb's arms. The coin cooled in Lena's hand. Caleb finally spoke. Did we win? Lena nodded slowly. I think so. But the narrator knew the truth. They had not just won. They had changed everything. They had ended a reign older than their world. Two ordinary children, one from the UK, one from the US, had stood against an emperor and broken his power forever. Caleb smiled weakly. So, what now? Lena looked at the coin. Now we go home. But Caleb hesitated. Do we stay in touch? I mean, we did save the world together. Lena laughed softly. Yet we stay in touch. The narrator watched them walk out of the square together, two lights that had risen, met, and changed the world. The story had begun with fear, it ended with courage. And that is how the girl who challenged the emperor became the girl who defeated him, with the boy who believed in her by her side.